hate forests. Fuck nature. Fuck dirt. Hills. Especially fuck trees. Whew.
Bruce Willis. You probably know him as your dad's favorite actor. He was Die Hard Man. He was Pulp Fiction Man. He was also Spike in the Rugrats movie.
Hey! Could you give a dog a little warning? I'm trying to do my business here.
After the success of Die Hard, Bruce was solidified as a blockbuster action hero. But for the past few years, Bruce has left the big studios behind and has instead been exploring the murky waters of video on demand. Acting alongside other household names such as Swin Temmel.
What are you doing?
Hell of a day, isn't it, partner?
Frank Grillo, and Texas Battle. Yeah, that's his real name. And lately, Bruce has been collecting paychecks at an alarming rate, pushing out 9 movies in 2021 with another 5 already in post-production and slated for release in 2022. Now, my channel is still relatively new at this point, so I'll let you all know a little something about myself. I love so bad they're good movies. I sometimes enjoy movies that are just bad. These are more like the latter. See, for a movie to be so bad it's good, I think it requires the filmmakers to have been trying to make a good movie. And after watching a handful of Bruce's bowel movements, I think it's safe to say that they aren't trying, like, at all.
Can we just talk again like before?
I recently saw Apex, the latest collection of scenes featuring Bruce Willis. It also stars Neil McDonough, who is playing William Birkin in Sony's upcoming smash hit Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City. And Apex is actually releasing in theaters, so I thought maybe it would be of a higher quality than Bruce's previous work.
For real?
I was wrong. It's actually no different from the other Bruce Willis video-on-demand movies I've seen. It has your usual pitfalls of a low-budget movie like cheap effects and bad acting, but it also follows a pattern that feels unique to Bruce's bad movie filmography over the past 5 years. These movies are always the same. Bruce Willis is usually playing a retired something or another. In Apex, he's a former police officer turned dangerous prisoner that is released to participate in a game. The most dangerous game, if you will. Having him play a character that was a former badass gives him the excuse to be old and tired throughout the movie, but with a quick backstory to let us know that he's still the best action man of all time. He just needs a nap first.
Before they put you in this cage, you owed money to the North Road 88s, the Triad, La Nostra, 2 cartels that I know of, a dozen West Coast loan sharks and East Coast Shylocks. The IRS, the CRA, the FRS wants you dead.
I'm a popular guy.
He won't ever show us how cool he is because Bruce Willis is too old to do the action stuff anymore, so he spends most of the movies, sitting down or leaning on something or just off screen completely, which is exactly what happens in Apex.
At least I'll be comfortable.
You hear the premise of this movie and think, okay, so Bruce Willis is being hunted, but he'll use his skills and training as a former police officer to become the hunter and take out each of the killers one by one to survive the game. Got it. But instead, the people hunting him all turn on one another and take each other out. And the movie expects us to believe that it's actually Bruce Willis's wit that causes this, but for the entire movie, he's just wandering around the woods and talking to himself. He does take that nap at one point. In the few scenes he does have with the hunters, he never really plays any mind games with them or anything clever like that. It's literally just this one question he asked them at the beginning.
Can hunters kill other hunters?
And I guess all the hunters hear this and they go, oh shit, I never really thought of that. Oh my god, he's in our heads now. It is incredibly stupid and clumsy, and it leads into the next pattern that I noticed. Each of these movies feature moments that feel so off, it's actually jarring at times. Like, things will be operating like a movie for the most part. A sad, low-budget movie, sure, but it still feels like a movie at first. Eventually, they get to the point where they need that scene. Usually it's something like a turning point for our characters, or some kind of montage that shows character growth, or the passing of time in order to get our characters to the next part of the movie. But instead of writing and executing that scene like, other movies would do, they just go through the motions or improvise it completely instead, almost like it's an afterthought. And then the movie nosedives in quality from there. It almost never fails. Apex has a couple of these scenes. The hunters turning on each other is pretty lazy, but the one that stands out to me is Bruce eating the berries in the woods.
You're about to trip some serious balls.
It doesn't bother me.
I think this was supposed to be a comedic moment, but it's just confusing. The movie's been mostly serious up to this point, and then out of nowhere you're hit with this music, and it's like a full-on farce.
Fuck shit up. Or not.
That, combined with Bruce's lack of interest in everything going on, is what makes it so funny. It's not funny for the reasons I think they intended, though. It all feels improvised, like Bruce was complaining about being outside and actually having to move in a scene, so they gave him these berries to make him happy for a bit, like you would with a child, and they just decided to work it into the script. Anyway, these berries end up having no effect on him until nearly half an hour later into the movie. And when they do, it doesn't lead to some funny scene of him defending himself while he's tripping or anything like that. He just kills a guy in the next scene with ease, literally 3 seconds later. Talk about a setup and payoff. I mean, that's the comedic stylings of Corey Large for you.
So what do you say? Think we have a chance?
I mean, this war has been playing out in nature for 13.8 billion years. When two intelligent species collide, one is always going to dominate the other.
Nah, I meant you and me.
He's the writer and actor found in a lot of these movies. He's one of those other household names alongside, Texas Battle or Swen Temzel. And he's no stranger to these awkward and terrible scenes.
Hey, are these yours? Did you lose these? Yeah? Mm-hmm. Are you here? How did you get here? Are you here by yourself? Is your mom here? Is your dad here? Okay. Okay, everything's gonna be okay now. Shh, don't worry. We're gonna be okay.
Another example is found in Reprisal. Bruce Willis and Frank Grillo are investigating a bank robbery. They're trying to figure out the robber's next move. So, you give them one of those cork boards they can pin stuff to, maybe have them run through the possibilities with each other and reach a conclusion that leads them to catch the robber. We've all watched movies before, so we know how these scenes go. Instead, we get this.
Now lay it out for me. Rectangular, right?
Right.
Like that.
Right. It was right. Hollow in the middle, and it was heavy, and it was very old.
Very old.
Steel. Yeah.
Then they just do a quick Google image search and solve the case in about 5 seconds.
Is that factory that used to build the shipping locks?
It's right about here.
How close is that to your bank?
It's a couple miles. This side of downtown.
Let's circle that. Might be worth checking into.
The FBI has been investigating this guy for months, but all right.
That's why it's taking so long for the FBI to find this guy.
It don't matter. None of this matters. As long as we get the scene out of the way, the rest of the movie can happen. They don't care.
First of all, that truly was a money job. I mean, I was like,
so you took it knowing it was
like it was a bunch of money for a very short period of time, which is why I think Bruce Willis did it. I don't want to take away from anybody, but the money's not going into the movie. Somebody else is getting the money.
Right.
And so the production value is terrible, and you're like, I'm going to have to explain this away.
Another thing you'll notice watching these movies is that Bruce does not care. He cannot be bothered to act.
Well, just following a pattern now.
Take this scene from one of my personal favorites, Survive the Game.
It's the 21st century, and y'all living under a monarchy like it's the Middle Ages.
Excuse me, mate. We're very lucky to have a monarch. Closest you guys ever came to a monarch is Elvis. And you know what they said about Elvis, right?
You might be thinking it's not the worst acting ever, but what you need to know is that he was shot in the stomach just minutes before this.
Now, we're all gonna shut the fuck up.
You do realize that we have the guns?
Yes.
By playing every character as an annoyed and tired old man, he can just be himself.
I want you to get the fuck out of here.
I'm convinced that this is not acting and Bruce legitimately just wants to go home and nap.
I'll be happy to sit down.
He genuinely seems like he has contempt for everyone he's working with and is openly mocking them as he waits for the check to clear. In Apex, it's pretty apparent that they just had Bruce for a couple of days, as is the norm. A lot of his scenes are completely removed from the rest of the cast, and like a lot of his other video-on-demand movies, he's rarely actually in the same room as them even when they have scenes together. Cosmic Sin was probably the most egregious example of this. Number 4. None of the characters in these movies are really characters. They never really have an arc, and there's not really much to them. If they ever do try at any, like, say, emotional moment or character growth, it's always awkward or hilariously inept. I'll never forget Frank Grillo's famous last words in Cosmic Sin. Occasionally, the characters will have some surface level motivation tacked on. In Apex, for example, the entire reason Bruce Willis's character decides to participate in the game in the first place is because he's informed that he's a grandfather now. And even though his kids hate him or whatever, he thinks maybe he can redeem himself by being a good grandfather.
Okay, I'm in. But I want them taken care of. I'm a grandfather now.
Done.
If I'm being honest, even he doesn't seem all that convinced, but hey, who am I to judge? This is just another one of those going through the motions scenes, and now our character has his motivation, so shut up. We can get to the action now, and what these movies lack in characters, they make up for in awkward action scenes anyway.
Cover my 6.
Almost every one of them have a ton of shootouts. Some border on comical, but for the most part, they're just incredibly lame. Most characters can't hit anything until the plot demands it, and the scenes always run for like an incredibly long time. Normally, they happen a few times throughout the movie, but for Apex, it's reserved until the end, and boy, does it not disappoint. Even though Neil McDonough's character is presented as the apex predator, the best hunter of all time, he is too afraid of Bruce Willis, who up until this point has only really injured one hunter. The rest have killed each other.
This man, he's perfect.
So rather than actually hunt Bruce like he wanted to at the start of the movie, Neil calls reinforcements in on that sweet teleporter. Oh yeah, they're called mongrels, I guess?
West, I want more mongrels. I don't give a shit. Make them find them. I don't care. Just get me more mongrels. Now!
Anyway, Bruce makes quick work of them in one of the most embarrassing scenes I've ever watched in my life. I mean, you want to talk about going through the motions? This ending is it. And the ending standoff, too, is just pure perfection.
That's all I do.
Also, at the end, they clearly have Bruce in like broad daylight, and then they cut to the obvious body double at night and expect people not to notice. It's brilliant. And it reminds me of another one of my favorite qualities from these Bruce Willis video on demands is the Bruce Willis body double. This is a pretty fun one to look out for if you should choose to watch one of these movies for whatever reason. I haven't watched all of his video on demand releases from the past 5 years or so because there's about 1,000 of them, but I'm willing to bet that every single one of them has at least 3 shots of the back of some other bald guy's head with some reused dialogue being dubbed over it.
Keep working, old man.
I'll take you anytime, punk.
Anyway, do not watch Apex, or rather, don't support it with your money. Let's just say that. If you do, you'll quickly realize that this is actually just a scam. Allegedly. Designed to trick you, or your parents more likely, into renting it from Redbox or Voodoo because of the name recognition. Allegedly. It feels more like they're going through the motions instead of trying to realize some creative vision, and if they are, then they're just really inept. But that's what makes them so interesting. They're kind of riding that line. So if you're a fan of So Bad It's Good movies, I can't say I'd fully recommend this or any of his others except maybe Cosmic Sin, maybe Survive the Game. That one was really fucking bad.
Drop it!
Run, you idiot!
It is, however, interesting to watch money burn on screen as Bruce Willis reads some lines and walks around. It's fun to try to figure out how or why these movies exist. Anyway, it's question time. Do you enjoy watching bad movies? What makes a movie so bad it's good for you? Is it poor acting, the editing, writing, or effects? Do the filmmakers need to be giving it their all, or do you like things that are intentionally bad, like Sharknado? I want to know. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Bye.
I worked for Joel Silver's company for a bit, and they had like the direct-to-video side of it. And a lot of times the direct-to-video side, like you said, like there was producer fees that would come in through, and how much?
Somehow the movie was a $6 million movie. The production budget is $800,000.
Right.
I wonder where that other 5.2 went.
Somebody's yacht.
Yep.
Yeah.
Somebody's plane. Somebody's. Yeah.
It happens all the time.
It does. It's almost like penny stocks. It's like it's almost like a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, it's true.
And
For real?